Hey YouTubers, take 3 here. I've tried to explain this above my head a few times. I'm not going to try to point everything out, but basically this video is about what I want to do once I return to Alaska. In the top corner, my right, your left, is the large square is the goat pen. The 2 squares under it would be there's a chicken barn, and then underneath the chicken barn, the far my right, your left, is the chickens. They've got berry bushes and that sort of thing, and then next to that would be the garage, and a portion of the garage devoted to like the goats' little sleeping area, indoor sleeping area. And then off of the garage, big square with the circle in the middle would be the greenhouse, and the circle is the actual house. I'm thinking an earth bag building that's most of the way covered, buried, so that the roof is growing things as well. There'll be a window on a south-facing window, small, and north-facing glass door and sliding door windows, basically to let in as much natural light from the north as possible. I know that's kind of backwards, but the way I have it figured, the south window is going to be mostly covered, and with you want to start with the lower stuff in the south and raise things up as the plants get taller. They will shade out everything below them. So, and I want my orange, and yeah, I'm gonna try to grow oranges in Alaska in a greenhouse. It's possible. I think there's been people who've done it, but not only oranges, but avocados, and I'm going to put them in the ground in the greenhouse. So the greenhouse is going to be like, in the corners it's going to have like cement. It'll be cemented into the ground in the corners, but basically, other than around the earth bag home, which will be buried most of the way, it's going to be all the natural dirt and stuff. So I'll put the orange and the avocado in the greenhouse, in the ground, and when they grow big enough, string a hammock. Yeah, that'll be fun when it's finally finished. That will be fun. So, dead of winter, I'll have it 60 degrees in my greenhouse and lay out in the hammock, look at the stars, whatever, have myself an orange or an avocado, guacamole and chips and all that fun stuff. And then I'll have further north in my orchard, to top of the greenhouse there, I'll have apples, pears, I think apricots. I'm going to try peaches, although they're pushing the limits. They're zone 5, and the place I'm looking at is zone 4, so it'll be iffy, but we're going to try it. And then I have a pond and a gazebo. The small little circle is the gazebo. The pond is all lined up with different levels. It's going to be kind of a a water garden as well. And then, of course, a sledding hill. And I don't know if I can zoom out enough. That entire thing is approximately an acre. It's like 365 feet less than an acre. And I don't know if I can zoom in enough. Oh, you probably can't see it, but every square on the grid there, there's actually, you can kind of see the 5 by 5 squares. Each little number there on the mark designates 5 smaller grid squares that are a little bit lighter, harder to see, but each of the smaller squares is 1 foot, and I have that drawn mostly to scale. So anyway, that's kind of what I want to do. And the goats would be for fiber, of course. I want to get Nigerian dwarf goats to start with for my dairy, because I like milk and cheese. My husband loves cheese. There isn't a cheese he won't eat. My goodness. Anywho, I'm a little bit more picky with my cheese. There is a type of cheese I don't like, and that's Swiss, but everything else is pretty fair game. I do have my favorites like Munster and Provolone, and ricotta is good only when I'm in the mood for like lasagna, but definitely Parmesan, Italian cheese. Oh my goodness, Italian cheese, mozzarella sticks are so good. Anywho, let's not get too carried away with all the different cheeses. But I'll have the Nigerian dwarfs to start with for dairy, and I'll raise them up, and they will basically help me to clear the land. I was thinking to start with, we would get a truck and a over-the-top camper type thing for the truck, park the camper, set it up so that I can drive off and just have the camper set up, detached from the truck, and basically live out of that while we not only clear any dead trees or whatever off the property, anything that's not growing well, anything that's diseased, and basically the stuff that's sellable will sell. The stuff that's more not quite good will be for our personal firewood, and we will set up a I'm thinking PVC pipe type hoop house where I have the garage, and that would be 25 by 25 square foot garage. The greenhouse type PVC pipe, quick to set up thing that I want to start with will basically, we'll have it anchored, but it will be 30 by 30 so that, you know, there'll be space for everything that I'm going to build is going to be built mostly with earth bag building, and I've done a lot of YouTube video watching and research and stuff, and I really like this idea of using what the land has and not destroying trees to create my house. Basically using earth bags. They're these, I guess, recycled plastic. They're like feed bags that farmers have, that they ship their feed for their livestock in, and when the farmers are done feeding their livestock, the bags are just, stacked up or whatever, and then there's a company or whatever that makes these, and then there's also companies that make rolls of them, and it's an alternative form of construction that is very insulating and inexpensive and easy for the regular person to learn how to do. And that's why I'm choosing this method, because to start with, I figure I just need 4 walls and a few doors on the garage, so that won't be too difficult, and we'll probably learn quite a bit. That will be part of my vlog when I get to that point. I don't know how many years from now, but it's a dream, and I'm pursuing it, and I don't intend to stop. So, farming. That's part of what I want to do when I get to Alaska. The other part, I mentioned goats and Nigerian dwarfs for dairy. When I go to breed them, because I want to raise them myself so that they are used to me and know me and are very friendly, especially seeing as I've never milked a goat before. But another thing I'll learn how to do, and I'll probably document that too. I want to show you guys the learning curve of moving from a duplex, basically. It's almost like an apartment in the city. It's in the city limits, so I can't even start with like a couple of backyard chickens. Well, maybe I could. I'd have to really convince some people, but anywho, I might try that. Shh, don't tell Joe. He'd freak. But I might try that. Anyway, the Nigerian dwarfs for the dairy, and then once they're raised, I will invest in a couple of Angora bucks, so that, I don't know if you know or not, but some people don't, I guess. Well, from what I hear on the internet, some people don't. I sort of figured, they would have to have, the reproduction going on to get the milk. But yeah, if you think about it, they have to get pregnant and have baby goats before you can start milking them. They don't just automatically, you start pulling on their udder, or whatever you want to call it, and start giving you milk. Doesn't happen that way. Doesn't happen that way for us. Doesn't happen that way for them. So, they get pregnant, so I'll get the Angora bucks, because I came across this breed. It's relatively new. I think the first one was in 1970 or 1980. It's called a Nigora. And basically it's used for milk and fiber. And the Angora goat fiber is really, really luxurious. The it's curly too, the Angora. The Ngora is not quite so luxurious, but it's stronger and less curly, so it's easier to work with, I guess. It doesn't get tangled or matted or what's the word? Felted. It doesn't get felted on the animal as much because it's, not curly and getting all tangled and everything else. It's the friction of the tangles and stuff like that causes it to felt. If it gets wet and friction happen at the same time, you get felt. Not good for making yarn. But anyway, so I'll get those and have some Ngoras, and I'll breed my own. And the idea of breeding my own is basically, from what I gather, they don't produce as much milk or as tasty milk. So I wanted to start off with something tasty that I am relatively certain that I will like, and then I'll move into, once I've gotten used to the idea of goat's milk, I'll move into the Ngora goat's milk. That, and I'll have, kind of a couple different breeds of goat to draw, because they look different, The Ngoras will have long, straight-ish fur. The Nigerians will have short and dense hair type stuff, and then the Angoras will have that. Anywho, so I'm going to start off with goats. Probably they'll be helping me to clear the land. Like I said, I'll put them in a greenhouse type situation to clear the garage, which will basically, over the first winter, first summer I'll be building that garage, and hopefully, well, even if I don't get the garage completely done, it will be at least completely cleared, because the goats will spend most of their time in there while I am working around the farm, picking out trees and stuff to take down and all that kind of thing. And they'll have plenty to eat. I'll put it in a nice brushy area. They like to browse. That's kind of something a lot of people don't seem to know, is that goats do not eat everything. They don't like to graze on grass. They prefer to browse and that sort of thing. So I'll let them clear out the brush, because it's going to be a wooded property. There's going to be a lot of brush, a lot of understory plants, as they call it in permaculture. So I'll let them take care of that while I'm taking care of getting all the diseased trees, all of all of the trees that I don't need or want on the property. I want to make a windbreak, distinctive windbreak that lets me know where the property line is. So in the first year or so, in the summer when I can, see the property stakes or whatever, what have you, I'll clear about 10 feet wide from any tree that is within 10 feet on my side of the property will come down, unless it's like a really good looking birch tree. And the reason for that, one exception, is because I want to do birch syrup in the spring. Before the snow melts, you can tap birch trees the same way people tap maple trees, and you get birch sap. Some people have sold it as birch water, just as it is. You can drink it just as it is. It's not sticky or sappy. It tastes like sugared water, and that's probably because that's basically what it is. It's the nutrients and the water going up through the birch tree to the new buds. That actually, in Alaska, a lot of trees will do this. They will, as soon as the weather starts to warm, as soon as the days rise above freezing and the snow starts melting and still on the ground, there's a lot of snow. There's a whole winter's worth of snow. So there's like probably 4 feet or something packed in there. Anyway, as soon as that snow starts to melt, it starts sinking into the ground, and the trees start absorbing that water, and they will run it up to the top of their branches and start building those buds up. And the trees know that they sense, and as soon as the nighttime temperatures are consistently above freezing for 2 weeks or more, that's when they start to leaf out, and that's when the syrup season is pretty much over. So before the snow starts, as soon as the temperatures rise, and it lasts about 3 to 4 weeks, as soon as the daytime temperatures rise above freezing, that's when you tap the trees and you collect the birch sap, and you do this. And I've researched it, and apparently the birch syrup goes for like, it's expensive. I looked it up. I've looked around, and it's expensive. It's like, I saw one place was selling for an 8-ounce bottle of birch syrup was like $24. And I'm like, wow. So, yeah, I want to do that. It just seems such a novel concept to me. So, and birch trees grow like weeds pretty much in most areas up there. There's birch, there's pine, there's I grew up mostly with paper birch. In fact, I think we had 2 or 3 good paper birch trees in our yard. If I had known when I was a teenager about the birch sap, I might have started then, because I just find it so fascinating. Because we had like 3 of them that were wide enough in our yard. It's just unreal. Anywho, so I want to do that. and that will be my second spring, because technically I'll be getting there in the first spring. And spring, I mean, I'll be getting there probably mid-spring. So my first early spring, late winter, is when I'll do that. And yeah. So that's a lot of things that I want to do. And the fiber from my goats will be used for this hobby in the wintertime, when there's basically no gardening to do other than in my greenhouse. Probably, I want to say by the third winter, I'll have gardening to do in my greenhouse in addition to my knitting. But the first winter, after I've marked out all the birch trees that I want to tap for syrup and taken care of everything else and gotten into a routine, I will have nothing to do except for plan and knit. So, yeah, the second winter will definitely be a lot of knitting as well. And I'll have spinning to occupy my time as well, because I'll have the Angora goats sheared, and I'll spin their fiber into yarn, and I'll probably have a few Angoras to shear and spin their fiber, and then knit from that yarn. So that's kind of what my goals are as far as the farm in Alaska goes. And of course I'm going to document all of that and the whole process, all my, not really frustrations, but planning, because it takes a lot of planning. I've worked on that right there in various forms. I started out with, and maybe in another video I'll show you all the different plans I have, different scales and stuff like that, and even different graph paper. But that, taping that together and transferring each part of it to that didn't take but a couple of days, of cutting and lining everything up and all that stuff. But I've been working on those plans right there for, actually putting them to paper and erasing and sketching and writing out plans and this and that for at least 3 or 4 months now. So, sorry I didn't document that, but I didn't have the idea then, I guess. I don't know. Anywho. But that's that. I hope you enjoyed this little tidbit on what I want to do. Maybe I'll get into why in another video. But anyway, all of that, it's fun. Oh, and this is really fun. I should probably finish this. It's been in this stage for like 5 months now. It's getting winter time. Well, not winter time. It's getting almost a few days comfortable, sort of. Yeah, it's still getting 85 degrees. It's just about to turn October. It's the end of September, and we're still getting 85-degree weather. Today was actually kind of nice. It was by kind of nice, I mean we didn't have to have the AC on in the car ride to work today. We rolled down the windows. And it was comfortable. It wasn't hot. It was warm, nice, comfortable. The breeze blowing from, the car going made it cool enough to where it was comfortable. The building was still hot. A couple of the bathrooms, the AC wasn't working or whatever, and God, they were so hot. So I wedged the garbage can in them when I was cleaning them just because they were so stifling. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Have a good one. See ya, YouTubers.